So I took off the back panel of the case here. You guys can see pretty much where the CPU kind of cable is right here behind the power supply. How we had to tuck them in behind the power supply to hide them from the front. Here's all our USBs and front panel audio. Taped them up a little bit right there. As you can see, there's a notch in the case, which looks like it was designed to allow something to go back there, but kind of worried about the sharp corner, so we taped it up to prevent any damages to the wires themselves. As you run right here, the blue is the cold cathodes control box. We don't have it set up on audio. Not really our cup of tea, so we're just going to leave it as just a plain blue cathode lights on there. And as I kind of move out, you can clearly see all the mess of wires that run up the side. Everything's tucked in again just to keep the front clear, keep the path of the air flowing. You can see where the front cable for the front panel, the cables for the front panel kind of come into the PC. We got them tied down right here and then kind of get tucked in behind some of the cables there, and then make their way to the front with a USB, the front with a SATA cable as well. This is one of the biggest flaws of this case, in my opinion, and anybody looking to purchase one of these, keep this in mind. The front panel cables that allow you to connect your USBs and your audio ports, these guys up here, okay, those front cables are extremely short. So unless you're routing them directly through your case, you're going to run into the problem that they're not going to make it to the connector points on your motherboard. Keep that in mind when you buy this case. If you're going to go with a very short ATX board or something along those lines, it might work. But again, we had to get creative. You have the two cables coming in right here from the front panel. These two guys tucked in right here with the SATA cable. The SATA cable runs straight down. That was the only way that I was able to get them so they connect to the front of the tower. To connect to the motherboard, so the front of the power or the tower has those connections. Now this big one that you see here, this is another one. This is the J audio cable. These two here are USB and the power controls. So this one is shorter than all of them. So your J audio cable that corresponds to, of course, your mic and your speakers. By far the shortest cable that I've ever had to work with. Makes it really disappointing because near the top of the case it kind of gets a little bit more jumbled. I don't know if we can get a good shot of it, but I tucked everything in through one of the cable ports there, or through one of the drive port openings. Padded it with some tape to make sure that there was no damage to the cable, and then of course everything goes out. But because of the lack of cable management, you know, instead of having the rat's nest in plain view, we kind of hide it. All the cable bundles kind of go through here. Now I understand that this could have been a little bit, this could have been avoided if we were to use a different type of power supply where we were able to connect what we needed and what we didn't need. Unfortunately, we decided to spend the money on some of the other components to allow us to keep under the $1,000 budget. So this kind of gives you guys an idea. If you purchase this tower, this case, what you're going to have to do to maintain somewhat of a sleek profile when it comes to cable management. So just keep that in mind. I'm going to rotate the tower here, and then I'll go back. Here's how all the cables are bundled up right here coming out of the power supply. You can see the 8-pin ATX power connector going up through the back, and that goes actually underneath the motherboard. We use some creative ways of keeping it down there. You can see the two SATA connectors right there. Kind of an odd spot for them, especially once we crossfire the two vid cards. As you can see, the vid card connectors right there, SATA connectors are right there. Since the Sapphire 6800 is about 12 inches long, 6870 is about 12 inches long, so definitely don't have much room to play with. We mounted the hard drive here instead of where they wanted, which is a couple slots down. That's because once the other 6870 is going to be cross-linked or cross-fired, there's not going to be any room for the hard drive. As you can clearly tell, There's barely any room as it is right now between the hard drive and the vid card, and we have the hard drive going into one of the 3.5 frontal bays that we're not going to use for this build anyway, so I'm not too concerned. But if you look right underneath it, you have the big 120mm fan that we're going to actually upgrade to a 140. It's in its way with the other 6870. So that gives you an idea of how much room, how much clearance there is between these items. The white cables go from the white cathodes, or the blue cathodes. So yeah, so just in case you're opting to buy this case, just a forewarning, unless you want the rat's nest facing right there, you're going to have quite a bit of work to do to tuck in your cables. Give it that clean profile, especially since it does have a clear panel side window. I think most of us would like to display our work if we do have that. So other than that, you know, the build went pretty smoothly, minus the hiccups with the case, which were, you know, quite extensive. So going forward, never ever ever will I use an Elite 430 to build anything else. I've already been looking into swapping this case out, because this to me was just garbage. Swapping this case out and maybe going with a different case. There's a couple Corsairs that we saw that we really liked. Not only that, but those would allow us to have a push-pull configuration with our fans while not encroaching on the motherboard. As you can tell, the RAM right now, very little clearance between the RAM and the bottom of the radiator. The cables for the Corsair H100, about an inch of room, but the CPU heatsink mount, you can see it right there, the screw in the middle of the screen, that is definitely touching with the radiator. So again, this case causes problems, especially if you want to go with an H100. So far, no problem with the H100. Really actually like it. It keeps the CPU quite cool. So hope this helps anybody that's in the market to build a new PC, or if they're in the market for the 430 case. Personally, again, I would not do it. Take the $50 and invest it somewhere else, especially since there are cases on the market right now that would allow for a bigger CPU, or for a bigger heatsink on the top. For a bigger heatsink, especially like the H100s and some of the other ones that Zalman makes, and some of the other companies out there. So just keep that in mind. The quick releases, not the best. They're actually not very good at all. I do not like the way they operate. Even in lock position, there's still quite a bit of give, especially when the CD-ROM itself closes. So more things that I guess I dislike about this case. Again, hope this helps anybody. Have a great day.